All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, The Agent Jumpstart, or How to Get Your AI Agents Right. My name is Christoph Leeses. I'm excited to be here. I'm working at the Flow. I'm a team manager of our automation team. I'm also helping out some companies on a strategic level with their automation journey. And when we talk about automation these days, AI and agents are, of course, very present. So working in that line of field as well. Quick introduction on the Flow. We are a Kronos Group company. We are a Microsoft partner. We are about 50 experts, most of them senior architect profiles, so working a lot on a strategic level with our customers as well. A few of our clients are shown here. Some of you are present here in this webinar as well, so that's really cool. Very excited to see you here. And hopefully we can, or you can take something away from it. What we do at the Flow, on the left-hand side, you see the digital workplace team. This is the core of what the Flow does. We started out with the digital workplace area about 8 years ago, 7-8 years ago. And over time, we got into the intelligent apps and automation spectrum as well. So this is my team. We focus a lot on automation journeys and with our customers, a lot on the agentic area as well these days. And obviously, when we implement new things, whether it is the workplace or whether it is automating processes, there is a certain change coming in place. People need to adapt to a new way of working. And we have our digital strategy and change team there to support our customers anytime they want. Good. Let's dive into what we'll do today. So the agenda, I'll start off with a quick introduction on agentic AI. So where we make the jump from Copilot to agentic AI and what the difference is. Then we'll dive into the market insights. So this is like real world experiences from our side, what we see and face with our customers on a daily basis, what works for them and what not. So we wrapped it up into a couple of conclusions that we would like to share with you today. Together with that, I'm bringing some real world cases of what our customers are doing with agentic AI. And we see that there's like a lot of different things going on. It's not always easy to make these agents work and to do it right. So in order to make that a bit more tangible on the different steps that we need to take, we have developed a small framework that we believe is essential in order to make the agentic journey a success. So we will talk about that. And then for those who want to experiment with it or want to give it a try, we have our Agent Jumpstart. And this is actually the framework into some very concrete steps that we can perform together with you. And then to close off just before noon, we have a short Q&A round. There's a number of you people here, so I will leave the questions until at the end of the webinar. However, feel free to drop any questions you might have into the chat. I'm happy to answer them later. If I couldn't answer your question if we're short on time, then feel free to drop me a message anytime. Good. So let's dive into the meadow. Where are we here today? I'm going to start with a very bold statement, grab everyone's attention right away. And I'm going to say that everyone has Copilot, but nobody knows what to do with it. I have a lot of people who will raise their eyebrows now. But what I want to, what I mean with this is that there's a lot of M365 Copilot licenses going on in organizations today. And people start working with it, they see the value of it, but they are not really using the full potential of that license, the full potential of all of the Copilot functionality that that we have in that package today. So from buying the license to the real value, we see that the gap is there bigger than expected. There's a lot that we can do with the M365 Copilot, but an extension of that is bringing in your own agents, and that is often a thing that is forgotten. On top of that, we have this slide, this very popular Microsoft slide from a McKinsey report saying that 45% of the employee time is automatable today with what we have already existing in the technology. This is quite a big number, but let's say that maybe even half of it, let's say that 20-25% of employees' tasks would be automatable in reality. That's already a lot, right? So that's a lot that can be automated today, but yet it's not always happening. And this is something that we see on a daily basis and that we want to address. So just a quick side-by-side comparison, just to get started. What is Copilot? What is agents? Copilot, everybody knows it these days, right? Needs no explanation. It's your personal assistant. It works for you as an individual. So you can ask it questions and it will respond to you. And you stay in control all the time. It's your Copilot. You are working with it. You can't share it with anybody else. They have their own Copilot, but your Copilot is yours. It's very clever, it's very smart, it can use a lot of knowledge, which is really good. But for some tasks or for some questions, you might need a very specific agent. And this is where the custom agents come into place. These agents are autonomous systems. They mostly work on behalf of a process or a team. So they can be shared with multiple of your colleagues, and they can even perform tasks independently. So you provide them with a very specific set of knowledge, very specific instructions, and they can really act independently, act on their own. And when we talk about these agents, there's a number of different types of agents that we can build. In a very, or in the most simple setup, we just have the retrieval agent, this typical question and answer agent, right? Think about the classical HR agent or the IT service desk agent. You provide it with a set of knowledge, for example, all of the very common IT problems that a service desk is facing with solutions, and the user can just tell the agent, hey, my keyboard is not working anymore, what should I do? And the agent can dive into that specific knowledge and give you an answer. Most simple setup can be very valuable as well, and still one of the most seen agents in organizations today. But also here, the full potential is not yet achieved until you go more to the right-hand side of the spectrum. So when we think about task-based agents, think about agents that you can really ask, like maybe simple things like rate me a service desk ticket, rather than having to go to this service desk portal. But it can become more and more complex tasks that an agent can do. We even have autonomous agents that act like without any input from a user. They're just waiting and in the back end, waiting in the background for a certain task or action to be performed. Let's say that they are waiting on in the service desk mailbox, for example, waiting for an email to be dropped, analyzing that email, maybe replying to it independently, asking for some additional information to the user. Once it is achieved, creating a service desk ticket, assigning it to the right operator, and so on. So these agents, they can really work independently. And then the multi-agent system is something that is, well, it's not that much seen, in my opinion, yet. However, some customers are starting to play around with it. It's basically agents that can direct questions to other agents. So very powerful system that for sure will be more seen in the future. But you see that agents these days, they can already do a lot. However, what we also see, and this is backed by by Gartner as well, is that most agents, they never really make it past the pilot. We see a lot of organizations that want to experiment with AI. They want to experiment with creating new agents. But most of these agents, they end up in a typical proof of concept phase, a POC phase, mostly driven by hype, let's say, like, hey, we need an AI use case, we need to experiment with agents. But in the end, it never makes it past that pilot. Sort of the momentum slows down, and yeah, basically the project dies without anybody really really taking action. So that's a shame, of course, and this is what we see a lot with our with the organizations that we work with, and we try to address that. And when we analyze these kind of things, we found out that there's a number of reasons why these projects fail. It first starts with the wrong use cases. Use cases that are often identified in a certain way because of people looking at other companies, or they found something online and they thought like, hey, this could be a good use case for us as well. And sometimes that ends up with use cases that are too complex or defined too vaguely. I remember like a couple of weeks ago, I was at a customer, and they talked me about a use case for their procurement team that could help them out with like their entire process of writing RFP documents, sending them out to suppliers, analyzing the offers that the suppliers send to them, helping them out with like creating a table on pricing and what would be the most interesting offer budget-wise. Very good idea of a use case, and definitely possible to do so with the technology of today. However, as a first pilot, this idea might be too vague, but definitely too complex to implement. This would take a lot of time in order to implement, and it's very hard to prove value in such a big use case. On top of that, we also see that there's oftentimes no clear ownership of these cases when you have very broad use cases. There's not really, they're not moving forward as we want to, and that often results in pilots that go nowhere. Apart from that, we also see this IT business disconnect a lot of the time as well. What I mean with it is that some organizations, they have a lot of ideas, right? The business is really very tech savvy, very digital mature. They see opportunities, they want to dive into it. But IT says, oh, hold on, hold your horses. We see a couple of risks here, and they're holding back a bit. And as they should, right? Because it's their job to see the risk and to make sure that everything is compliant regarding data security and all of that. So it's a good thing that they hold back. It's a good reflection that they make. However, it holds down the business. Most of the time, it's also a matter of no governance being in place yet. So business wants to build agents. Maybe they are already building their own agents without IT being aware. And even if they are aware, they might not have the capacity to build these agents in a proper way themselves. So this leads to frustration on both ends. And both are right, but it's very hard sometimes to find consensus and to move forward with it, which is also a reason why things slow down and eventually the project dies. Final reason that we see a lot is the loss of momentum, because this may be the other side of the spectrum, is that some organizations do too much thinking. They are very aware of potential security risks, or what data should we use with AI, what not, to what location is it sent, which technology should be used, what use cases are good, should we dive more into use case. leading up to too much thinking, too little doing. The first results, they arrive at a point where everybody is already like a bit, yeah, demotivated of the long time that it took. Sometimes we have customers that are very good at use case detection. They have a lot of really valid use cases, but then because of this thinking, because of this validation process or approval process that sometimes is in place, it just takes too long, and that's that makes business users especially demotivated and trying to do their own thing, maybe in other technology, which is not what you want to achieve. And in the end, there's a risk that the pilot stays a pilot. These are very common things that we see, and we try to come up with a way on how to act on that. So we implemented with a lot of our customers a certain framework that we go through in order to avoid this. And this framework, these steps, we have 3 steps, in fact. This is what I want to show you today. What I want to guide you through it. This is how we do it at our customers, and hopefully you can take something away from it. Three steps or 3 phases. First phase is the envision phase, and in this phase, we mostly take a step back. We look at like the bigger picture, and we really try to come up with like a proper AI strategy before we move on to the next phase. And this next phase, in the established phase, we try to identify proper use cases. So good use cases for the first pilot or for the first POC, or maybe an MVP that you want to create, like already production worthy. So we try to identify those, as well as making sure that your environment is ready. And then in the last step, we actually start building. So you see that there's like a lot of steps before we actually start building, things that we believe are very essential when you just start out with your agent journey. So let me take you through one of these or all of these steps, and talk a bit about common pitfalls or things that we handle in each of these phases. So starting off with the first phase, the envision phase, this is like the classical why question, right? So why do you want to do this agentic thing? What I like to ask is why you and why now? So when we are in this room with business stakeholders, sponsors, management, I don't want to ask just the question why, but why you and why now? And as I assume that all of you are in here because you believe in the agentic story in your organization. And it might be a good question to ask for yourself, why you, why now? So why do you believe in it? What do you see, in fact, is valuable in this agent journey for your organization, and why now? And answering that question often leads to some really good insights and to an alignment of the people in this workshop. It mostly creates a certain urgency. It creates an executive sponsorship and also a mandate to move not just towards that pilot, but also beyond that pilot. It gives you really like a clear view of where you want to go to, what is that final, that finish flag that you want to put, where do you want to put it, and why. And this is very essential in next phases of your agent journey. Apart from that, apart from the why question, what we also ask in this workshop is, why do you want to move forward to with this AI thing? What are solid AI use cases, and where do you want to use AI for? In some organizations, they say like, hey, we really want to use it for those core internal processes, optimize those and really try to boost efficiency there. In other companies, it's a whole different story. Maybe they want to stay away from that core processes because there's certain critical data involved, or there's a certain complexity in architecture. So they're looking more into administrative processes, for example, those things that people spend a lot of time on, but are not like the core, the essence of their job. So those are like two totally different point of views. It is key to identify those, because those will also make sure that in the next phase you will identify the right use cases. And those right use cases, because you identify those, it makes sure that you get proper ownership, that everybody is along in this journey, and that people are really excited to go to the next phase. Avoid the classic pitfalls, I would say. Don't chase the hype, so don't do AI because everybody's doing AI. Think about like a common reason why you want to do this. And this is the first step, and really try to understand why you want to do AI in your organization. Once we know that, we move along to the next phase. And in this next phase, we will establish a certain base ground to work on. So what we'll do here is, I call it here identify by value, not technology. This is probably, in my opinion, the biggest thing you should remember from today. So if I can ask you to remember only one thing for the rest of your life, please take this one with you. So identify by value, not technology. Don't start a use case detection workshop or session or whatever. From the idea, we need to find AI use cases. That will not work. You will end up with very complex things, fake things, things that will not get enough traction to move on. So identify by value. Try to look for things that people spend a lot of time on. Very time-consuming tasks, manual tasks, repetitive tasks. Ask them the question, what are your main challenges in your job today? What are the tasks that you lose like a lot of time on and that you're not really excited for doing? Those are the best use cases to move forward with. And sometimes it could mean that those are not AI use cases at all. Sometimes it means that just a typical classical workflow, sort of an approval workflow or a sequential workflow like we did 5 years ago is a solution. But that's good, right? It's also valuable to identify those, because those workflows you can typically create in a couple of hours. So a couple of hours and you can save a lot of time for these employees. So it's always worth identifying those. But I can guarantee you, if you do it like this, that you will find some valuable AI use cases as well, or just valuable use cases where you can use AI in. And this is this is key. This is gold. This will also mean that if you do it like this, you will end up with use cases that will create a real impact for your users. And they will see that. It will make sure that you have a dedicated owner of this process, of this little project, a business owner. It will make sure that you have dedicated testers because they see the value of it, and you will end up with a valuable outcome there. A very important thing that we do in this phase is making sure that everybody knows what to do. So define the roles of every stakeholder and set up a proper governance. So everybody has its own task in this agent journey, right? We have business who brings in the domain knowledge, the valuable use cases. We have IT who brings in the data, the guardrails, the governance framework. They make sure that everything is properly maintained and controlled. And leadership brings in the sponsorship. And all of these things, they should be very clear from the start. Okay, so this is absolutely essential. It's the foundation of moving forward with these agentic use cases, is that you have a proper governance set up from the start. So once we did that, we can actually start building. And this is the step where we take this or where we prioritize certain use cases, where we take one of the use cases and we will start building it. What we always do is start small. Okay, so remember the example earlier of the customer who wanted to automate their entire procurement team. Very good use case, but we can really scope it down to something much smaller that makes more sense, that can be built in a couple of weeks. And this is also a good rule of thumb or measurement that you can bear in mind. If you come up with a valuable use case or with a pilot use case that you want to build, that can't be built in a couple of weeks, it's probably not the right use case, or it's probably not the right pilot use case to do so. So we like to work in sort of like an agile concept where we start small, think pilot, think MVP, minimal viable product, and then extend on top of that. So don't overcomplicate too early. Make sure that you get those early wins in that can motivate people, prove to sponsorship that it is like the good way to go. It gives already a lot of value, whether it is small or not. It already gives some value to the business, and then we can extend later on. And very important as well is to think about scaling. We see agents that are built like they are good use cases. They start small. It's like a couple of weeks, and we have this agent in place, and it can be helpful for our business. However, think about the roadmap of this agent. Okay, most of the time, this agent can do a lot more than you built at first. So be open for the input of your business, and think about scaling it. Right? If you build it small and it's already proving value, then it's very easy to add like things on top of it and to make it even more powerful. But it's something that we always try to think of from the start rather than along the way. And then, of course, like an agent evolves, the way people work evolve. So you can't really think about everything from the start. But think about like a roadmap, really treat it as a product, in fact, like how can we evolve and make sure that it proves value today, but also tomorrow and also next month and also next year. That's another thing that we try to bring to the table here. Good. So very nice theory. 3 steps. Very good, but how does that work in reality? So I brought a couple of real-world scenarios here that brings the theory into practice. First one is a very classic case, an HR agent we did at a healthcare and social insurance company here in Belgium. Classical because I'm sure that it will be recognizable by many of you. Typical situation where there's a lot of HR information and employees can't find the right information or the right answers to their questions fast enough. HR policies, I hope I don't offend anyone here, but they're mostly very long and dense documents that for me are not that exciting to read. So when I'm looking for one particular thing in this HR policy and I have to read through the entire document, I know a thing or two that is more exciting than that. On top of that, within HR, there's still a lot of requests handled manually one by one. Say that, for example, I'm not sure what kind of parental leave I'm entitled to. I have to look to the right HR, find the right HR policy document, then read through it, then find the right thing, the right chapter or section or whatever, then see what action I should take. I should probably have to email my HR officer, then have to, initiate certain things, and it's very time consuming for everyone. So with this customer, they thought, hey, let's let's use an agent for this, right? Because it's very classic scenario where you provide it just with a lot of documents, and the agent can answer for yourself. However, we also thought about automating certain tasks. Now here, we started small, so we really went for the quick wins. So we had many ideas that were on the table. Many of the different tasks that an HR agent does at this company can be automated. It's not complex. It's the classical thing, like we have to know a couple of things, some information of this request. It has to be validated somewhere, probably at a manager or something, and then it ends up in somebody else's mailbox, and he or she then performs the task. We deliberately scoped down, so we made sure that there's only 1 or 2 tasks in this pilot that is automated. Why? It's easy to build and it's high value. So we identified the 2 tasks that a lot of employees request, being automated the structural telework requests and the absence requests. So those are requests that employees file a lot and that the HR officers spend a lot of time on. Very easy processes when you look at it, because it's simply requesting, make sure that you have the information, and then setting it into the HR system. So we identified those, we built those, and eventually it turned into an MVP that actually proved value. So we had some manual work that was automated. There was efficiency for not just the HR officers, but also the employees. The employees have some sort of a self-service agent they can go to. And on top of that, we had a clear roadmap on the next steps of this agent. So now it's just 1 or 2 tasks being automated. There is a roadmap to extend it with other tasks, with other integrations, with other systems, and so on. So it starts small, proves value, and then we extend it. In my second example, we had a company, a consumer goods manufacturer. They are active around the globe, selling products. They were in a different situation. They already did some experimentation. They already looked at ChatGPT and Gemini and Copilot and even Claude, I think, on particular use cases, a number of use cases that they identified in the company, and they wanted to build it themselves. Either IT or the business users wanted to do so. Unfortunately, they fell short. Okay, so they didn't really achieve the value out of it as they expected. And they were really in this phase where they were doubting if the technology could really help them for these use cases. They were doubting, well, not the technology, but the use cases for sure. So we talked with them, and it turned out that one of the particular use cases is actually a good use case. It's a translation agent, because they have a lot of products, over thousands of different products. They were all in a certain system, and every product has very specific product information and specifications in English, and it had to be translated to any other language of countries they were selling the product to. Very time-consuming process, because a lot of people were involved, a lot of validation steps. They had to involve translators and so on. So also an expensive something to do. So in this case, we defined a proof of concept where this translation agent could do most of the translations for them. They already tried to do that with standard Copilot, Copilot Studio. So we brought in our expertise to define a very specific architecture with parts of Copilot Studio, parts of the Azure Translation Services, and we built that proof of concept. So also here, like this process of translation, it's like a very lengthy and manual process, but it's not very hard to automate that. That's not the hard part. The hard part was making sure that this translation quality was meeting their expectations, because translation terms, they had very specific translation terms. It's different, like just translating a conversation. It had to be very, very good. and meeting their standards. So we scoped this agent down to the hard part, being the core translation quality. If we could meet our expectations of the translation quality, we were very confident that all of the other tasks, they were very simple to automate, so we can extend later on. So also here, we scoped down. We didn't overcomplicate. We took the most hardest part because we have to prove value, and we can do so with this translation. So we automated that, and the ID, the roadmap of this agent is to automate the full translation process end to end. After a couple of iterations. On top of that, we also had the idea of scaling to sister brands because this agent is very recognizable, or the process behind the agent is very recognizable for the sister brands and also for other translation flows. So we can extend it over time to new users, such as the web page translations. So if we would initially start with like this full-blown agent that automates the entire process, it wouldn't be a project of a couple of weeks. It would have taken us months for sure to finalize this and to make it work like they intended to. My last example is something else. It's an international construction group, engineering group, also active mostly in Europe, but also outside Europe. A lot of employees, and they have very clever people, right? They have a lot of engineers, a lot of tech-savvy people. They like to dive into things and build things themselves. And so they did with agents. They started building a lot of agents by themselves. So the business built the agents without IT being aware. So they were in the situation where they have over 50 agents, 50 agents, production agents built by business, and IT was not aware of most of them. This led to certain risks, of course, data risks, security risks, continuity risks as well, because what happens if this person who created it would leave the company? Who would manage the agent that is used in production? So a lot of risks. In this case, they had very strong use cases. Most of the agents that were built were really good things. They are really proving value. But there's no strategy or governance in place, and this leads to a lot of risks. So there we started from the first step. Even if they are like already using 50 agents, we took them back to the starting point. Like, let's define your strategy and governance first. What will you do with AI in your organization? What can we do? What can we not do? These are the risks that are on the table. How will we deal with them? We defined a clear vision on that, a clear approach. We also defined a structured intake process for these use cases because business kept on feeding IT with new use cases. There should be at one point a certain process on how you deal with all these use cases. How will you analyze them? How will you prioritize them? Who will build them? Is it the business still? Is it IT? Is it somebody else? So things that really should be in place once you scale up in your agent journey. And then finally, we also implemented the Power Platform and Copilot governance to make sure that we get rid of all these data and security risks. So what's next for them is that they are more moving towards, we call it an efficiency factory. It's more like, we think of it like a factory where we have like different production lines. We have a production line for intake of cases. We have a production line of building cases. We have a production line of maintaining and iterating on agents. This is like a structured part that helps deliver the value in a fast way, let's say. Sure, you can ask the business to come up with use cases, but if they just pile up on somebody's desk and nobody has the capacity to handle or treat them, then you're losing the momentum. You're past the pilot stage, but you're losing the momentum of agents. So this is something that that we try to implement then at this point with this customer, is to have like this really structured path from defining the agent to building the agent to supporting the agent. So not just one-off builds, but like really repeated that delivery in an agile manner. And this is an example of how it starts with a Jumpstart, like these 3 steps, but it evolves very quick into what we call an efficiency factory. All right, looking at time, we have 15 more minutes left, and I have about 4 slides to go. Should work. Good, really quick. We have this Jumpstart, these 3 steps. How do we make it happen at our customers? So let's say that these things, they trigger you. How can we help you? Well, this is how. You see the 3 steps that I talked about. In these 3 steps, we have defined like a clear scope of what we do, what we bring to the table for you. In the vision phase, like I said, we take that step back. We do the pre-engagement. We look at your environment, where you are in that journey. So we do the platform assessment, but we also inspire stakeholders, and we try to come up with some good use cases. So we do the use case detection. We start from the efficiency, not from the technology. We make sure that we get the right use cases and that we define that first proof of concept together. In the next phase, established phase, we design that POC further. So we dive into the details, we analyze the process and so on. And optionally, we help you with configuring that governance. So if from the platform assessment, it turns out that there's not much governance in place yet, we make sure that we set up that foundation for you. If there is already a governance in place, we just review it and maybe we give you a couple of advices, or we help you out with some best practice configurations. And then the final step, we build that POC for you. So we build that first agent, but we also help you with evaluating it. So is it properly working? Why is it not working? How can we iterate on it so that it is becoming more valuable? And we define a clear roadmap together with you. So this agent journey, it doesn't stop here. We make sure that the project doesn't stop after the pilot. We make sure that those next steps are defined and that you can take action in moving towards that finish line that we have put together. Really short, so from the first idea to a working agent, I think right-hand side is the most important column. What you get out of it is the validated technical readiness. So whenever things governance-wise has to be implemented, we do that for you, or we help you out with it. You get inspired on the added value of it. We have a short list of very valuable use cases that you can work with. A working proof of concept that we built together with you on your number 1 use case. And we have the roadmap, the high-level plan for the next steps that you should take. The beauty of it is that this Jumpstart can work for any organization, regardless of where you are in your agent journey. So maybe you are an organization that is very new to agents, that are just exploring and taking like the first steps in this journey. Then we can help you out with setting up the governance from day one, identifying proper use cases and making sure that that first POC becomes a success. Other organizations that are already building momentum, they have their first agents in place. They already have like a list of first use cases that could potentially be valuable for them. In that case, this Jumpstart can mean that we help you prioritize the right use cases, that we scan your environment, that we make sure that that governance is properly set, and that we build together your strongest use case so that you can continue building that momentum. And then for companies such as my last example, the construction company that already had a lot of things running in production, even there we can help not just with use case detection, because most of the times that's already done and there's already quite a good list. But we help you out here with streamlining that process of analyzing, prioritization, definition of the right use cases, who builds it, is it IT, is it the business stakeholders, is it the flow, and this will be the bridge into the efficiency factory. So I would say companies that are in this phase, they are like at a critical turning point, whether you continue building that momentum and you deliver agents like in a rapid pace, like your business requests, or you fail to, or you have the risk to fall short and to lose that momentum. So also there, I think the Jumpstart can be very valuable. Final slide here on the Jumpstart. So how to engage. If this sounds interesting, if you think like maybe the flow can help us out, be aware that obviously you need licenses in order to build these use cases, either M365 Copilot licenses or consumption plans on Copilot Studio. Important as well, your effort in this process is about 2 days of workshops spread along the Jumpstart. So not a huge effort. We take the heavy lifting here. We do the hard work, and then we transition everything to you. And it's a small investment, I think 7,500 euros. It's a fixed number, so no changes there, no surprises. How to engage, if you're interested, we have a pre-engagement checklist. So this is just a checklist that you can fill in for your organization and send it to us. And this will help us understand where in the agentic journey your organization is at, and how this Jumpstart can be valuable for you. So once you fill it in, we come up with like a concrete plan on how this Jumpstart can work for you. Good. 10 more minutes, we're coming close to the end of this webinar. I want to give you some takeaways before we go to the Q&A session. So key takeaways from this session, from my point of view, 4 things I want you to remember. First of all, start with the vision, not with technology. Take this step back, look at where will we use AI in our organization, how will we use it, what kind of data. Essential, I think, the big why question. Second one, remember this one thing you can never forget for the rest of your life: detect use cases from efficiency and not from AI. Identify use cases where or from tasks where people spend a lot of time on that are very manual, very repetitive. Those are the ideal use cases to work on, and not the typical, let's try to think what AI can bring to our organization. Third, governance is your foundation. It's the essential base to start working on. So if you are already starting out with agents and you haven't really thought about governance, don't delay it, don't postpone it, act today. Very, very crucial. You don't want production agents where over time you have to say to users, hey, we have to move this, or certain functionality is being stripped because now we are implementing governance. You don't want that. Start as soon as possible with your governance. And then finally, think scale, build this efficiency factor, think about this structured way of working. Once you are past the POC phase, the POC phase, think about how can we scale this in our organization? How can we make sure that business brings in use cases and they can be delivered in a couple of weeks rather than months or quarters? Good. So, well, thank you. We are close to the end of our session now. I will have a look at our questions, if there are any. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I will stay for about 10 more minutes or so to answer your questions. If not, then thanks a lot for joining. If you have questions after this webinar, feel free to drop me an email or to drop me a LinkedIn message or any other channel you may find. Happy to, to discuss any other topic with you.